Okay, we are continuing today Perek Chav Daled Shiurei Sefer Yehoshua es kol Shivtei Yisrael Shchemo vayikro leziknei Yisrael uleroishov uleshoiftov uleshoitrov vayisyatzvu lifnei ha'elokim. Okay, and then it goes all the psukim we read last week, and as we go, Yeshua bin Nun is finishing. We're going to do it next week. We're going to read the entire bris. But what actually is happening here is Yeshua bin Nun is koires bris with Bnei Yisrael a day before his Petira. And the pasuk says, "Vayisyatzvu lifnei ha'elokim." Vayisyatzvu lifnei ha'elokim. Steht in Ralbag. You have it in your first page. Steht in Ralbag. Zochar achar ze shekvar osaf Yeshua kol shivtei Yisrael shchemo. והביאום שום בבריס השם, שקימו וקיבלו עליהם שייניס לעבוד את השם. So the emphasis in Tanchuma, okay, Vayisyatzvu is Loshen Nitzavim. Everyone has to stand. As we said last week, Moshe Rabbeinu is not, but Moshe Rabbeinu b'shas Ptirosa, he says, Atem Nitzavim ayoim kulchem, le'ovrecho bevris Hashem Elokecho. So to Yehoshua, his Talmud, is bringing Gans Klal Yisrael to Shechem. And why we're doing it in Shechem, again, we're going to speak about it in the beginning of Shoftim Perek Beis. Vosep is Shechem. Even though the Mikdosh, the Mishkan right now is in Shiloh, and the Oren is in Shiloh, and Be'emes Isur of Yitzhak Oren, it's not so poshut when the Oren is in Shiloh to take it out. Yerushalmi Shteit, Umfang Megillah, that when the Oren comes out, the Pasundere Dinim, what happens when the Oren comes out. Balkaponim Yeshua takes out the Oren from the Mishkan Shiloh, he brings it to Shechem, and there is Koyeres Bris. Zokt the Tanchumo, Mipnei Ma'ason Moshe Matzeva. Matzeva means standing up. Mipnei Shemishtamshi Midas Ladas. Midas Moshe Ladas Yeshua, Midas Yeshua Ladas Askenim. ואף ישוע סול מצבה שנאמר ויאסוף ישוע אסכול זקני ישראל שכמו. Yeshua also makes him stand up. Look at the Radak. ויסייעצבו נראה שהביאו ארוין האלוקים שם כדי לכרוס הבריס לפני האורן כמו שאמר ויכתוב ישוע בספר תורה אלוקים נראה כי שם היה האורן שבו היה ספר תורה והוספם ישוע שכם ולא שילוי שהויה אורן שם אולי על פי הדיבור. The Radak vakultzach אולי על פי הדיבור also זה שיחסו הבריס בשכם. He's trying to give reasons. Vosapus Yeshua took away the oren from the Mishkan Shiloi כי בואי נסעקב אברהם תחילו כשנכנס לאורץ כמו שנאמר ויבוא באורץ עד מקום שכם ואויד כי שמו יונס גודל ינקב אבינו ושיזכרו אויסה וידבקו בהשם לבדוי ואויד כי הסחולס הנחלו אשר הויו ליעקב בארץ ישראל בשכם הויו שכונו חלקס הסוד מיד בני חמורה וישכם ושם אומר להם ישוע אסירו אלוהי הנכו אשר בקרביכם כמו שאומר יעקב לבונה בשכם אסירו אסכול אלוהי הנכו אשר בתיכם. So the Radak is really a vakultzach. Vosepes Yeshua takes it to Shechem, and he has reasons because the Avraham Avinu was in Shechem, Yankov Avinu was in Shechem. We'll get, it deserves a shiur b'fnei atzmoi, but I would like to focus on a different nekuda. This forno in beginning of Parshas Vayero says Vayero Elov Hashem be'elokei mamrei ki shom nimo el Avram Oz v'chol bnei beiso nimoilu ito shomei fio el izborach shchinos la'amoid bevris כמשפט כל קורסי בריס, כעניין אתם ניצובים לעוברך בבריס, וכעניין ויכרויס לפני Hashem ויעמוד כל העם בבריס. Sforner tells us, says Michoel to all the brises, Yeder krisas bris, when you kairos the bris, there is a din amido. You mechuyev to be oimed. And we'll see soon at the Moed Megillah state that be'emes the Kodesh Baruch Hu also stands b'shas the bris. Kivyochel, the Eberste steht eichet uv b'shas the bris. Wie viel meken meyachas sein in the Kodesh Baruch Hu ein lo guf et mus haguf, but Kodesh Baruch Hu is also standing b'shas the bris. But the emes yoyre darkoi, the reason why Yehoshua is mechanes the bris is beKsav bris on the Torah, and that's why in Perek of Gimel Yeshua was mechanes only the Zkenim and the Rosh Hamatos, because the Azorah was Azorah and Kibush Haaretz, and not being over the Azorah, and not to be chasnes bnei Haaretz for intermarriage. That was the Perek of Gimel. Perek of Dalet is a krisas bris shmiras Torah, and it's over midor ledor. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai u'Mesorah liYeshua. When Moshe is mekabel Torah miSinai, is state ve'ato poi amoidi modi. Kodesh Baruch Hu is standing kivyochol, and he gives him over the Torah ba'amido. When Moshe gives a krisas bris of mesiras Torah beyoyim moisoi, everyone is beyoyim moisoi. It's being done. Atem nitzovim ayoyim kulchem. Everybody has to stand. So did Moshe stand. When Yehoshua gives over, this is the day of the Ptir. By the way, if anybody wants to know when is this perek taking place, it's taking place on Chavov Nisan be'ois Hashono shenistalek beYeshua state in Shulchan Aruch in Tur. The Yeshua, we have a Kabbalah when each one of them was mistalek. Yeshua binun zyortzes Chavov Nisan. So today in the morning of Chavov Nisan, Yeshua takes Klal Yisrael. They're all standing. He brings the Orein from Shiurei to Shem, and they're making krisas bris of shmiras Torah. Now the truth over here is that be'emes yoyre darkoi, that the din amido of the bris that Yeshua is bringing is not merely because a bris needs an amido, like Sforner says, darkom shel koire bris la'amido. But in the day of Yeshua's P'tira and Siluk Min Ha'olam, Yeshua is giving over Megillas Beis Hamikdash. There's something called, I don't know if you're familiar with it or you're not familiar with it, there's something called Megillas Beis Hamikdash. Megillas Beis Hamikdash, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe the Torah, together with giving over the Torah, the Ebershter, he gave Moshe Rabbeinu in the hand a Megillah. Architectural plans of how to build a Beis Hamikdash. This Megillah is called in Shas Megillas Beis Hamikdash. In this Megillah, Moshe Rabbeinu was Metzayer, as I state in Lashon HaRambam Zakdom Tzapir Shamishne. Moshe Rabbeinu took graphically, he designed whatever he heard Mipi Agvura, exactly the Beitoichnis, the Tochnit, the plan of Beis Hamikdash, and each one of the Klei Hamikdash which were incorporated, which were included in the Beis Hamikdash. He was mekabel it from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu told them, this is a secret. This cannot be given over till Yom P'tiroscha. And b'Yom P'tiroscha min ha'olam, Moshe Rabbeinu gave Shteitach HaParsha how to make the Mishkan. This is the Binyan HaMishkan. But in the future, we know that the Mishkan, 480 years later, they're going to build the Beis Hamikdash Harishon b'Yerushalayim. Mishkan Egen Edinim. Mishkan is mefurish in the Torah how to make a Mishkan. Parshas Truma, Parshas Tetzaveh, Yaakov Pekudah state how they made a Mishkan, and the Mishkan that they made in the Midbar, that was really the Mishkan that they took with them to Gilgal. In Shiloh, they also used the Urias, but on the infrastructure, the template on the bottom was Binyan Avonim, as I stated in the Mishnah in Zvachim. After 369 years in Mishkan Shiloh, when Shiloh was Chayev, they rebuilt the Mishkan in Noiv for 44 years, and then 14 years in Gilgal, in Givoin. And those Mishkanim in Gnoi V'Givoin were the Mishkan which was in Gilgal for 14 years, as soon as they came to Eretz Yisrael, and that was the Mishkan HaMidbar. That's a Mishkan. But there was a Beis HaMikdash that David HaMelech is instructing Shlomo HaMelech. We're soon going to see how to build a Beis HaMikdash. This is the most Kodesh Dike secret the Kodesh Baruch Hu is giving Moshe in the Megillah's Beis HaMikdash. And that Megillah is given to Moshe, who is giving it over to Yehoshua, B'Yom P'tirosim in Ha'olam, where everybody is standing. And Yehoshua gives over this Megillah's Beis HaMikdash right now to this Canaan. Moshe gave it to Yehoshua. Yehoshua kept it, and never ever. Yehoshua is not going to build a Mishkan. Only Yehoshua knew the Megillah's Beis HaMikdash. It was a nevuah. 1 second. Only Moshe gave it over what he heard from the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Yehoshua is keeping right now the blueprints, the formula, the plans, the master plans of how to build a Beis HaMikdash. Okay, I would like today to learn a little bit more in detail this Megillah's Beis HaMikdash. The emissaries, steht in Medrash, look at the Medrash, look in reference number 4, steht in Medrash Shmuel, Megillah's Beis HaMikdash shemosa HaKodesh Baruch Hu leMoshe ba'amido mosor loi kakosu ve'ato poi amoidi modi omad Moshe u'mesoro liYeshua ba'amido kakosu kroes Yehoshua v'yisyatzu omad Yehoshua u'mesoro lizkeini ba'amido v'yisyatzu lifnei Elokim. This is the pasuk we're reading right now here in Perek Chof Dalet pasuk Aleph. Omdu Neviim u'mesorua leDavid ba'amido, Omad David u'mesor leShlomo ba'amido, kakosu v'ato Hashem chaneini v'akimeni v'hashalom Elohem. So this Megillah's Beis HaMikdash, and by the way, it was an article could be sold in an art auction. Megillah's Beis HaMikdash wasn't stam epsah, a nevuah bal peh. He took a Megillah, and that Megillah was kept and given over till it was given to Shlomo HaMelech, who built the actual Beis HaMikdash some close to 500 years later. So Yehoshua right now, V'yisyatzu lifnei Elokim, really there's a dual meaning to the pasuk V'yisyatzu lifnei Elokim. Number one, there's a krisas bris on Torah, and every koros bris has to be ba'amido. And number two, in this pasuk, in this zelbe maimed, Yehoshua is giving over right now this Megillah Beis HaMikdash. This Megillah has to be a savior. The Kodesh Baruch Hu gave him. Moshe gave it to him. It says it brings the Medrash brings Moshe gave it to him. Kroes Yehoshua v'yisyatzu. He has to stand. Yehoshua is giving it over to the Canaan here. They are receiving. God's call is always not seeing it. They're receiving that Megillah, and it has to be done by me. Now, the pasuk says in Sefer Divrei Hayom. Sefer Divrei Hayomim, and if you look at the second page that you have, in Sefer Divrei Hayomim, look at reference number Ches, in the second page, Perek Chof Ches, the second page, there's two sides, the second side of the Ches, Divrei Hayomim. I would like to read a few psukim from that Megillah's Beis HaMikdash. Vayiten David l'Shlomo b'noi estavni Saul azov b'mishkal azov l'kol klei aveda ve'aveda l'kol klei hakesed b'mishkal l'kol klei aveda ve'aveda u'mishkal meneiros azov v'neiroseim zov b'mishkal meneiro v'neiroseo u'meneiros hakesed b'mishkal meneiro v'neiroseo ka'avedas meneiro. This is all psukim. Ve'esazov mishkal l'shulchon esamareches l'shulchon ve'kesed l'shulchon ve'amizlogois ve'amizrokois והכסובויס זוב טויר ולכפויר הזוב במשקל לכפויר וכפויר ולכפויר הכסף במשקל לכפויר וכפויר ומזבח הכתויר זוב מזוקוק במשקל וטבלס המרכוב והקרובים זוב והפויסים וסייכים על אור בריס השם הכל beKsav מיד השם אולי יסקיל כל מלאכויס הטבלס. This is the psukim. Steht doch klar mefurish in the psukim that Yehoshua is giving him the tavnis. The pasuk in this pasuk it says la'ulom, but if you continue, I can bring the whole parak. You bring the eichel, it brings the azora. Every single iota is incorporated in this megillah. Not only was it pictures and drawings, but it also gave him measurements exactly how much zov has to go in, what does the menorah have to be, the mizbeach, the shulchan, and so on and so forth. Now this is not so poshut. This pasuk of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem Alai Yiskel, I would like to elaborate a little bit. I want to get a little further, but I would like to just get a shtickle familiar with this Hakol beKsav. It's nicht azay poshut. Look at the Gemara in Sukkah, reference number 1 on the second page. Gemara states, as in Simchas Beis HaShoiv is a mesaken tikun godel. My tikun godel, look at the Gemara. Omar Rabbi Lezer koisa sheshanilu chalo koisa b'rishoyin v'yikifu gzustro kedei sheyeh noyishim rois milamayl v'anoshim milamata. Simchas Mishal Ero, Simchas Mishal Ero, Simcha Miyamov. What do? They had a porch as Asnoshim, a second floor. The women used to stand on top and to look at the men dancing on the bottom of the avukos. As if she stayed the whole sukkah is like more in sukkah. Tono Rabbono. Bakishoino yonoshim yibifnim ve'onoshim yibachutz. V'yoboim le'kalus roish. Iskinu shi yonoshim yoshim yibachutz ve'onoshim yibifnim. V'adayin lo yoboim le'kalus roish. Iskinu shi yonoshim yoish vo'is milamal. In the beginning, they split it. Men were inside, women outside, and vice versa. It was kalus roish, it was this arb of the men and the ladies. So they built a porch, an attic, a gzustro, a gallery on the second floor. The women used to stand on top in order not to fight the more akashe. Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem Alai Yiskel. Omar Rav Kro Ashkechu v'Dorshu. V'sof do'oretz mishpoches mishpoches. Levad mishpoches Beis David levad v'Neshem levad. V'homu kal v'chim. מה לא עשית לו ושם עסקים בהספר וניצור מסגר במותיר אנושים לבד ואנושים לבד עכשיו שעסקים בשמחה ויצרור מסגר בהם הלחס כאן וכאן. They found the pasuk. When men and lady get together is a shail of tznius. Madach lo asid lovo is a shail of hesped, and it says separated between men and ladies and made separate halls. So to here, so even though these halacha of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem Alai Yiskel, which means you really have to follow exactly the template that you received. Moshe got from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and gave it to Yeshua, and Yeshua gave it to Skein gave it to David, David gave it to Shlomo. And now, this is more, he's talking about beKsav Sheni, we're not talking about beKsav Harishan. beKsav Sheni, more for Takasha, how could you build a porch? So the more Korah Ashkechu v'Dorsh. What's the Korah Ashkechu v'Dorsh? The problem with Tznius, there's no Korah Ashkechu v'Dorsh to build a Gzustro. The Korah Ashkechu v'Dorsh is a Sidoah Zah Sol Zach, that the tznius you have to be separated. Since you have to be separated, we'll see in a minute. This is one Gemara in Sukkah. There's another Gemara. The Gemara is talking about Metzayro. There's another Gemara. The Gemara is talking about Metzayro. The Gemara says in Zvachim, for these are Gemara in Zvachim. The Gemara says in Zvachim that Metzayro, right? Tzoyre that has to come in Metaya Yodov Lebehoinis. So the Gemara comes along and says that all the smichas, I'll give you an introduction. The Gemara says all the smichas that were done in Kochim, the halacha is teichet smicha shchita. You're supposed to have consecutive, it has to be right away. From after the smicha, you soymach on the korban, you're supposed to have shchita. Chutz mismichas mitzoyrim, the korban, the osham mitzoyrim brings down the osham with b'taharosoi, so the smicha is not exactly subsequent to the shchita, is not subsequent to the smicha. Why? Because he can't come into the azor. But the Gemara that why therefore the metzora cannot go in, and he has to stand in sha'ani koner. Sha'ani koner is not niskadish redushas azor. He puts in his behinis. The halach is bia b'mixas leishmei bia. Imela they bring the korban into the nesha'ani nikta. He's making the smicha, and they have to walk. The problem is that they have to walk more than 22 amo, 11 amo, and 11 amo to pass the shetach till we could shecht the korban, and that's called already hafsoka. 22 amos is hafsoka. It's not called teichet smicha shchita. So mimela the halacha of teichet smicha shchita you learn out from a pasuk is not niskayim ba'oshem etzerif. The more akashe to lavet pishpesh. Why do you have to put charnikla? Go next to the azora, drill a small little window, and let the metzora make the smicha through the window. That's the Gemara. The Gemara says it's machlekes ula. Maybe if you only be mitzvah leish, maybe let him make the la'avet pishpesh. So the Gemara Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem Alai Yiskel, a problem because here is a wall. If I want to drill in the wall a certain eshnav, a certain pishpesh, a chaloyin has a small window for the metzora to make a smicha, I can't do it. Why? Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem Alai Yiskel. You can't change one iota. the Mitzvah. The third Gemara comes alone and says that the mitzvah, Gemara in Chulin, Daf Pei Gimel, the mitzvah Kisui Adam is not noyeg b'mukdoshim. Why? Because, in other words, oif, which you make a melike on top of the mizbeach or samuch to the mizbeach, hatas oif, oilos oif. The Gemara says, since Kisui Adam, this halacha, you're supposed to have offer milamata and offer milamailo. You're supposed to have sand on the bottom and the dam, and on top of the dam you have to have another layer of sand. So the Gemara says you can't do that. Why? Because if we're going to put it, the shaila is, what are you going to do with the offer? You're going to mevatel the offer, you're not going to mevatel the offer. If you leave it there in order to take it later, not to be mevatel to the mizbeach, so it becomes a chatzitze. So the kohanim are going to walk on top of the mizbeach to make the malike, they're not standing on top of the mizbeach. And if they are mevatel it, in other words, they put the offer for the korbanos, for the kochatas ha'oif, in order mevatel it to become subordinated to the mizbeach. So the Gemara, Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem v'layis. The Gemara mukdoshim matayim lo im mishum d'Rav Zera domar v'Zera sheiches shogri shitin offer l'madon v'offer l'maylo shenem v'shofech esdom v'kisoi be'offer offer l'melo be'offer melamit sha'sheiches tzorch shitin offer l'mayto v'offer l'madon v'ocher l'efshar eichel avid later v'levatlei. If you can mevatel it, kamoisiv abinyan. beKsav Hakol beKsav adai ishbit lo yilevatle av chtzitze. The Gemara says have a problem. Therefore, is a raya that mukdoshim doesn't have a mitzvah of Kisui Adam. You shech the oif b'mukdoshim, there is no mitzvah of Kisui Adam mukdoshim only because of this raya. Because what are you going to do with the offer? There is no bear of Kisui Adam unless you have on the bottom of the dam first some offer, and without being mevatel it to buy b'chatzitzi, mevatel it, you moisif on the goiva of the mizbeach. And miMeYad b'ayim Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil. Another Gemara, the Gemara says that in Eruvin and Daf Kufdal, I just want to bring a few samples. The Gemara says that the melach they used to put, you think over here, the snow, the salt is an invention of the city of Lakewood. The Shteit HaMishneh in the Eruvin and Daf Kufdal, there used to be boizkin es melach and the kevish, in order, the kevish used to go on a ramp, used to go on a slant, so it used to be all the time, domim, it was wet. So the Gemara says the kohanim used to run up. The Gemara says they have to do bizrizis. So they're going to slip and they're going to break. And there's stories that kohanim fell and broke and they got injured on top of the kevish. So what do? The shamish used to stand there, used to be boizek melech. He used to throw salt on top of the kevish in order for the kohanim not to slide and not to slip and not to break any of the evorim whilst running to make avodah from the kevish to the mizbeach. So the Gemara sakashe, how do you put it? If you're not mevatel, it's chaytzitz. Again, is halacha, he's supposed to stand on the all bekashe. If he's not mevatel, it's chaytzitz. He's mevatel, is Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil. So be'emes says, look at Teisus. It's not Teisus in Zvachim. Teisus es a kashe, if there's a iser of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil, more shteitoch, there's a mishneh, moisifim al ha'ir v'al ha'zoros. Anybody who learned Shavuos knows, there's a mitzvah of the halacha that if the azor becomes too small, you could extend it. Shaila, how do you make the extension to the ear and the Azores? The Azor is one of the places you could make larger. If there is not enough space, overpopulated, to come in, then you could be Moisifim. Like Morris says, how do you do it? B'shir, b'shteitoi, this is a whole recipe. How do you do the Moisifim al-Yirva al-Azor? How do you make, anytime you make a Yisofer on Azores, you mishane the Tzura, the temple, B'samikdash, there's halacha of Hakol beKsav, as if Sakashe. So how do they make Moisifim al-Yirva al-Azor? What happened to halacha of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil? Because look Teisus. Look at Teisus. How do Moisifim al-Yirva al-Azor is eine echo di ikel meimar kro ashkech v'dorish ke yahid esuk umiu kosher deocho nami en lecho kro godel mize deneavet pishvish lekay mitzah smicha derachmona v'samach. ולמען דמסיק דסמיכס או שמצר לאו דרייס ניח ולתם דשם יאבא בפסיוס כושר נאבד פישוס דלקל מיחש יש מיו שם יאבא בפסיוס זרע דרבונה בעלמא וקורי אוכו כל beKsav. Teisus says that be'emes, Teisus says one teretz. Why don't you say kol ashkech v'dorish? You have to make a mitzvah. It needs to make a smicha. There's a posuk. You have to make teichem smicha shchita. So Teisus says two teretz. One, smichas oshem mitzvah is not really midaraisa, so you don't have kol ashkech v'dorish. And even according to this, the mandoma that hold that smichas oshem mitzvah is the raisa, be'emes is that the mitzvah can go into the azora to be seivich. It's a tzorich, he can go into the azora. The only reason why they don't let him do it, Because Shema Yarba bePsios. Maybe he's going to go one extra step. He's not supposed to. He's supposed to build the shores. beKsav Hoch Baruch he's over a beer economist because he's Marba bePsios. So since he'd be over is a Torah about something which is not needed and necessary to make the smicha, so Mimele be'emes is midoraisa. We have a solution for the mitzvah. He can go into the Azor. So only because of Gzeras Chachomim of Shema Yarba bePsios, he didn't let him in. So that's not called Karash Kovedosh. As they zoktesis. Frekteis Akashe, so what do you say about the Sugi in Chulin? Right? Frekteis says, what are you going to do? V'hadom abreish kisei adam, the kisei adam ain't a nebim doshim mishum dolo yefsho, v'eichel kamois v'ksiv hakol beKsav, ein ze choshev kimo yikro. Kiven de leikosav v'hedya b'kro, she'ina kisei adam ha'mukdosh. They says, well zokt. It's a drosha that kisei adam is noy bekochim. I'll make a drosha that kisei adam is not noy bekochim. If I make a drosha kisei adam is not noy bekochim, then it's not really Kro Ashko Chovedorsh. And the Pella is, Vu steht Kro Ashko Chovedorsh in Simchas Pesher. Alle Mutschen Zach, Reb Kvegers, and the Biyude, Sam Sefer, all the Achronim Mutschen, Vu steht Psainians, again, Moshe Feinstein has made the Ketshuva about this, asking him about this, reform shuls, back and forth. He's busy with this. Vu steht as Yidah Zazach, as in Simchas Pesher Sheva, Weiber Daf Kumen. And even if you say they have to come, everybody has to attend, was together with Hakel, but where does he say he could stand separate? Don't the Gemara, all of a sudden, by Tznias, the Gemara goes Kurash Chovedorsh. But by Smiche, and by Chatzitze, by Kisei Adam, you can do without. Don't be Mechase Adam, don't Rashe, don't do mach nicht Ketech von Smiche Schritte. You can mevat all the halachas, but Tznias nicht. Okay? The MSCs at Zechapela Otzu. Look at the Mishnah in Midas. Stays a Mizbeach Hoyo, okay, 32 על 32 עמה, או עמה וקונה שם הזה היסוד, נמצא 30 על 30, או החומש וקונה שם הזה הסוף, נמצא 28 על 28, מקוי מהקונה עמה מזה ועמה מזה, נמצא 26 על 26, רגלי הכהנים, מקוי מיכאל עמה מזה ועמה מזה, נמצא 24 על 24 כמרוחו. You want to know how big was the Mekova Ma'arocho, was 24 by 24. It started off with 32 by 32, and after all the shave-offs, after all the things which were needed for the beKsav, for the Yesoid, for the Ragol Kohanim, you were left with 24 Ameh by 24 Ameh. Omar Rabbi Yosi, Mitchilo, listen to this. Omar Rabbi Yosi, Mishnah Midas. Mitchilo lo hoyo ele 28 al 28. Koines ve'at shenimtze Mekova Ma'arocho 20 al 10. The truth of the matter is, on the base Hamikdash HaRishon, the gross area of the Mizbeach on top was 28 by 28. Once you shaved off the 8, like we shaved off from 32 to 24, you really had the Mekova Ma'aroch of 20 al 10. Ukshe'olu b'nei hagoyla. What's olu b'nei hagoyla? When Ezra v'Siyato came to build the Beis Hamikdash HaSheni, הוסיפו עליו 4 אמוס מן הדורון ו4 אמוס מן המיירוב כמין גמו שנמה והריל 12 אורך ב12 אורך רבוע. שתי תוך האופן המשנה that in Bais Sheni the midas were not exactly parallel and identical to the midas in Bais Rishon. They weren't together. So the question is, what's the Gemara in Bais Sheni if you hold that in Bais Sheni there was not the through generations, you see that the midas were not identical. Furthermore, let me tell you, and I want you to, I don't know if you're ever going to come encounter with this. This is some ideas that's kedai to have. And I made you a summary of the shinuim between Beis Hamikdash HaRishon and Beis Hamikdash HaSheni based on a couple sugyas in Shas. The goiva of the ulam, the height of the ulam in Bais Rishon was 120 amo. The roichav was 10, and the oirech was 10. In other words, the ulam in Bais Rishon was 120 amo high, 10 amo wide, and 20 amo long. 10 by 20 by a height of 120. That was the ulam. The Bais Sheni, and I'm bringing this is often a psukim. In Bais Sheni, the state in Mishnah in Midas, the goiva ulam was 100 amo. The roichav was 10% more, 11 amo. And the oirech, instead of 10 amo, they made it 100 amo. They quadruple, 5 times. So you see that by Sheni, they did not stick to this formula, did not stick to the recipe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Moshe Rabbeinu Sinai. Okay? Weiter, furthermore, if we remember the Pesukim we read in Divayom, that the Pasuk of Hakol beKsav b'yad Hashem alai Hiskil doesn't go only on the Binyan, but also goes on Klei HaMishkan, on the Menorah, on the Mizbeach, there is a very basic, fundamental nafkamina between Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni. In Bayis Rishon, state in Pasuk in Divayomim, there were 10 menorahs. Look in the reference in number 2 in 7. Bayis Rishon oyu beheichol 10 menorahs, 10 shulchanos, milvad a menorah ve'ashulchan she'asa Moshe. There were 10 shulchanos and 10 menorahs in Bayis Rishon. V'chen oyu menorahs kesef ve'shulchanos kesef. Besides the menorahs zov and the shulchan, which was made of zov, they added on another menorah from kesef and a shulchan from kesef. Yam nechoishes, Eser mechoines, Shnei amudim, Yochanan and Boyaz. By Sheni, there was 1 shulchan, 1 mizbeach, 1 menorah, 1 kier, and there weren't any amudim. So we see very clearly and precisely that this halacha of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai Hiskil is the halacha which is said in Bayis Rishon. And in Bayis Sheni they changed. They changed the dimensions of the oirech and the roichav and the goiva, and they changed the kalim, the amounts, and the ingredients they're made out of, even though it says Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai Hiskil. If so, kom v'gam nitzova, v'oltzkashe. All the Gemaras we just read, the Gemara in Zvachim La'avet Pishpish, the Gemara of Takona of Simchas Beis HaShoeva, the Gemara in Eruvin Legabe the Melach that were Boizek, the Gemara in Chul Legabe Kisui Adam. This is all Gemara talking about Bayis Sheni. We're not talking about Bayis Rishon. And we're talking about Bayis Sheni. So if Bayis Sheni doesn't have this akpode, and you see that they changed, they twisted it elastically, they took the Beis Hamikdash and they changed around the thing. So Vasi da Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai Hiskil. The premise is that we don't have the time of the day to explain. Okay, but one thing I will say, look at the Ritva. I'm just bringing a Ritva in Chul in Daf Pei Gimel. Hakol beKsav b'yad, and this sugya, the sugya of Kisui Adam. Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai Hiskil. Pikol mikro b'vinyan tchunas habayis shom adori shloim ebnoi. Kol shiurei bayis kulo mipi Hashem ve'en lo yisiv lichov. Im toim ha'amrin leprekot shechot sholem min ha'gol yisiv l'mizbeach dal damus min ha'dorem. Nish mayna kashe. The Ritva is a kashe. What are you saying over here that Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai Hiskil, you can't make a Kisui Adam because you're going to make the Mizbeach 2 inches higher. Here they say the Mizbeach Alein, the Zelba Mizbeach, they made it 4 amas and 4 amas by length and by this. The height should be different than the length and the width. Mir shteimer the hosa meforish kro ashkuch v'dorsh. Ma bayis shishim av Mizbeach shishim. Okay, let's leave alone the first sentence. Ve'oid the hosa b'tchilas binyonei. Ve'hocho shehoyo b'Mizbeach kol. Okay, it's cut off over here. What? Okay, as zog der Ritva, I'm sorry, shiur. The ganze shiur nimmst da weg. Zog der Ritva, there is a basic fundamental difference between the Tchilas HaBinyan and later on. The Ritva seems to be saying that the Goyva Beis Hamikdash, the Rambam says, mitzvah l'goyim beis elokeinu as much as you want. You can go ahead and be magbia beis elokeinu. There is a Rambam in Akdomat Pirush HaMishna, but it's seemingly to be that this halacha, I'm giving it to you in a nutshell, this halacha of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai Hiskil, which is liikuve, and then if you say it's liikuve, it's paisel da'avoid, it's paisel Beis Hamikdash. If somebody can make a pishpish, the Beis Hamikdash becomes ois Beis Hamikdash. They state in the Neidabiyah, avel tzchidish. In Brisker say it over from Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim hat gesagt, Hakol beKsav is me'akev. Ken sein steht das in Reb Chaim in Sefer, that Hakol beKsav is me'akev. It's not stam psachumre. But it seems that the deen of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai Hiskil is the deen which was said only in Megillas Beis Hamikdash, which was given over David and Shloimeh. David and Shloimeh, that was the Megillas Beis Hamikdash. We don't find after Shloimeh HaMelech, thereafter, when they went to the Golus, and they came back from the Golus, when Ezra v'Siyata came and they built the second temple, the second Beis Hamikdash, there was no Megillas Beis Hamikdash. The Megillas Beis Hamikdash Question is, they have the archaeologists that claim they found the Megillas Beis Hamikdash. The Megillas Beis Hamikdash from Shlomo, we don't find. We find all the Midrashim, Sekonchik, Endik, by Shlomo. So seemingly there is really no Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem Alai Yiskil in after the Binyan Beis Hamikdash Arishon. The Gemara steht doch hier. So doch da Gemara, the Gemara steht doch hier. What are you going to do with the Gemara? The Gemara steht doch hier. So seemingly that they were Noiheg in Bayis Sheni was only b'teiras asmachta be'alma, and they were Noiheg to the practice in Bayis Sheni was a practice of such that they should stick on to anything they could unless they have a real reason not to. But the Megillas Beis Hamikdash, which says the template of how to build the Beis Hamikdash with all the pictures, doesn't give no Beis Hamikdash Rishon, not Beis Hamikdash Sheni. I want to show you moYad Rashi. I once asked Chaim Kanievsky years ago. So in Bayis Sheni, he showed me a Rashi in Erchin. He just showed me the Rashi. He didn't tell me what, but he showed me the Rashi in the Mishnah. In Erchin, it says that they made in Erchin. I didn't have those gates enough for the Drita page. In Erchin, state that they used to make a abuv in one of the kelim that they used to use in for shiur. There is more as a shayla ikashir beikashir bekli. And the kelim were there at Lipsume called the Shalas Meikar Adin. That's Shiur Salavim, or Shiur Salavim is Bepeh, and the kelim were all Abusik. One of the kelim was Abuv. Abuv was like a Azasot Cholil, Azasot Abuv. And it's stated in the Gemara, I'm reading, Yoton Rabban, and Obi Boyo B'Mikdash Cholok Hoyo, Dak Hoyo, Shalkone Hoyo, Mimois Moishe Rabbeinu Hoyo. Tziva Melech came, the Tzipu Zov. They came in with this abuv, and it was very thin and made out of wood, and he made beautiful koilas for the zimra, for the levim, and shirma the zimra. King says in Beis Hamikdash state b'mokam ashiris, and anis b'mokam ashiris, we gotta have it right. State in Braise ton rabon tziva melech v'tzipu zov v'lo hoyo koil orev. As soon as they coated it with sov lo hoyo koil orev, not lo tzipuye v'hoyo koil orev k'moy shehu. Tziltzul hoya b'mikdash shel nechoshes, hoya koil orev, nifga v'sholchu chachomim, ve'eviu umonim Alexandria shel Mitzrayim v'tiknu, v'lo hoya koil orev. Not lo es tikunoi, v'hoya koil orev. K'moy shehoya. Machteshes, the machteshes which used to be koitesh, the samemonim for the Ketores, hoysa b'mikdash shel nechoshes, u'mimois Moshe Rabbeinu hoysa, v'hoysa b'fatemes es absomin, nispagmo, got ruined. All the years, klapped yet the tog dalton, all the Pitum Akteres. Nispagmo ve'viu umnim me'Alexav v'tiknu v'lo yem mefatemes k'moy shehoysa. Not least to kunem fatemes. Okay. Shnei kelim nishtayu b'mikdash rishon v'nispagmu v'lo oyu lohem arucho. Ve'al zeh omar David nechoshes memurot v'kli nechoshes shem chamudas. Okay. So the Gemara comes along and talks about all these kelim that they never were able to fix. But the Gemara comes in and adds Tonu Rab Shimon ben Gamliel on top of this brayse. Shiloyach hoyo mekaleach mayim beKeisar. Shiloyach is the Mayan Shiloyach. You know, in Azora there was a Masa Mayim Shebazor. He used to go down Nachal Mea Shiloyach. Okay, Nachal Kidron Mea Shiloyach. He used to go down. So state Shiloyach hoyo mekaleach mayim beKeisar. The pipe was. The hekef of the pipe was ke'iser, like a matbei of iser. Tziva HaMelech, steht in Braise, v'yirchivu kadesh yisrabu meimo. Guy said, Beis Hamikdash, we have to wait a half hour. It's not, we gotta get a 5 inches, 6 inches width, and we're gonna get the business going much faster. Tziva HaMelech, steht in Gemara, v'yirchivu kadesh yisrabu meimo, v'nismatu. Sooner they made it bigger, so it went less water or dam than it went before. So the Gemara when Yisma'atu, Chozru v'mietu v'oyo mekaleach mayim. They went back and they said, you know what, just get it back to where it was, give me back the kiloach ke'isor, v'oyo mekaleach, it went back to business, was mekaleach mayim. Ve'al zeh lekayem ma shene'emar, steht in Braise, al ishalel chochom b'chochmosoi, ve'al ishalel gibur b'gvurosoi. Was meint das al ishalel chochom b'chochmosoi, al ishalel gibur b'gvurosoi? So Rashi, this is the Rashi Reb Chaim Kanievsky showed me years ago. Alisal beKeisar pia mayon shu novei Hashem rochov keisar. Alisal el chochom bechochmosei. Listen to Rashi. By the way, this Rashi I also heard once from Rabbi Sheber in Chumashir. I'm talking about now pure halacha nish hashkofa. Al yisal chacham bechachmasoi, shechachmasoi eino elo mekalkeles. Chacham ain't as a chacham. It gets too late. But that post the cheshbon. 3 inches, you get 10 cubic feet of water. Cubic, what's his name of water? Zogt Rashi, shechachmasoi eino elo mekalkeles. Lefi shekli mikdash rishon al pi agvura nasu. beKsav Hakol beKsav miyam Hashem alai yiskil kol melechas hatachlis. So Rashi says that even the amas hamayim shebazor meYad kazach in this Megillos Beis Hamikdash Moshe was given for Kodesh Baruch Hu, not only gave him the blueprint of what's the width of the pipe that will take out the blood from the Azor to Mayan HaShiloach. Rashi says al yisal chacham bechachmasoi. Rashi says, why is the chacham meistad b'stach chacham? You're going to make it 5 times as wide, and you get water going to flow. The blood is going to flow through. Shechachmasoi eno elo mekalkeles. Why is the chacham mekalkeles? As if Beis Hamikdash Harishon, the fried dikederes given al pi agvuro nasu. Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil. So Rashi seems to be saying there is really no Hakol beKsav misham Hashem alai yiskil in Bayis Sheni. But because there was Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil, the Gemara brings it down, they tried to go in the tzura of what it was in the fried Beis Hamikdash. So whenever they found a reason, when I say it's elastic, you could change it. Whatever they find, Kra Ashkech V'Dorosh, the hell, there was a Tikkun Gadol, women has to be there. It's all for the Chachom Sheba. Chaim told me, I asked him, Vel Pasken to say. He says the Chachom Sheba Yisador. Whatever the Chachom Sheba Yisador decided, the women have to participate, and it's going to be a Tikkun Gadol. The women are going to stand upstairs on the Gzustro, and the men are going to stand downstairs. So then you can build. I Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil. Shteit nicht in Bayis Sheni Hakol beKsav. It's only asmachta. So by Bayis Rishon, Kra Ashkech V'Dorosh doesn't help. There's no Kra Ashkech V'Dorosh. The whole Kra Ashkech V'Dorosh, the whole elastic changes is only in Bayis Sheni. Because in Bayis Sheni, Be'emes, you see that they changed around. Right away, they made a mizbech. Right. Okay. I'm saying, but you see lechatchila that they built. You see, they made the midas weren't the same. So when they came lechatchila to build, and they figured now the tzarich hashol the mizbeach has to be, instead of 20 by 20, it has to be 24 by 24, fine. But whenever there is no reason, obviously they held that for kisei adam, mibalti kedash kisei adam is not b'mukdoshim. It's very edel, very thin, cutting it very thin of what is included and what is not included. Doesn't make any sense. They see that they made it like bia kechol yotze, so it has to be addressed. But all I want to know. Yeshua is right now giving over Megillos Beis Hamikdash to the Shkenim. The Shkenim are going to give it over to the Nevi'im, who are going to give it over to David HaMelech, who's going to give it over to Shlomo. In Bayis Rishon, there was a din of Hakol beKsav meYad Hashem alai yiskil, and there is a halacha of Ba'amidah. Mitzvah Hashem, next week, we're going to elaborate a little bit more about what this Amidah of Megillos Beis Hamikdash. I just wanted to bring down this Nekudah. This is all, the Rambam calls it all, Yeshua and David is all Bayis Rishon. The Rambam called Kufas Bayis Rishon, starting by Yeshua and finishing by David. That's it's called Kibush Rishon, it's called Kibush El Mitzrayim, it's called Beis Hamikdash Harishon. This is what is the Vayisyatzvu, not only for the Krisas Bris, but also for the receiving of the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, which is only really specifically designed for the Zkenim, who are getting it from Yeshua.